Hi, everyone. Welcome to Amira's English Learning Podcast. I'm your host, Amira, and this is the show where we make learning English fun and easy. Today, we're talking about something many learners face, understanding English but struggling to speak it. And to help me dive into this topic, I have my good friend Khuram here. Hi, Khuram.
Hi, Amira. And hello to everyone listening. I'm so glad to be here. To be honest, this topic feels personal to me because, well, I struggle with speaking English.
Don't worry, Khuram. You're not alone. A lot of people can understand English really well but feel stuck when it's time to talk. Why do you think that happens to you?
For me, it's a mix of things. I get nervous, I overthink my grammar, and sometimes I just can't find the right words quickly. It's frustrating because I know I understand what others are saying.
That's really common. It's like your brain has all the knowledge, but it's afraid to let it out. You know what? Speaking a new language is like learning to ride a bike. At first, you wobble, but with practice, you find your balance.
I like that comparison. But what if I fall off the bike, so to speak? Like, what if I make a mistake or people don't understand me?
That's okay. Falling off is part of learning. Imagine this. When kids learn to ride a bike, they fall all the time, but they get back up. Speaking English is the same. Every mistake teaches you something new. And trust me, most people won't judge you, they'll appreciate your effort.
I never thought of it that way. So, you're saying I shouldn't let my fear of mistakes hold me back?
Exactly. Fear is the biggest roadblock. But here's the good news. The more you practice, the more confident you'll feel. Speaking isn't about perfection, it's about connection. Let's start with something simple. What's one situation where you'd like to speak more confidently?
I think ordering food at a restaurant. I always feel awkward because I don't know how to say things the right way.
That's a great example. Okay, let's practice. Imagine you're at a restaurant. I'm the waiter. You can say, "Hi, I'd like to order a burger, please." Give it a try.
Okay. Hi, I'd like to order a burger, please.
Perfect. See? You just placed your order confidently. Now let's add a little more. After ordering, you could say, "Can I have a glass of water with that?" Try it.
All right. Can I have a glass of water with that?
Amazing, Khuram. That sounded great. The key is to keep it simple and focus on being polite. People will understand you even if your grammar isn't perfect.
Thanks, Amira. I feel a bit more confident already. But what if I can't remember a word while I'm speaking?
Great question. If you forget a word, don't panic. Try describing it instead. For example, if you forget the word menu, you could say, "Can I see the list of food?" Most people will understand and help you out.
Oh, that's smart. So, I don't need to know every single word. I can just explain it in another way.
Exactly. And here's another tip. Practice speaking out loud as much as possible. Do you talk to yourself in English?
Sometimes. I feel silly, though. Like, who talks to themselves?
Lots of people do. It's a great way to practice without pressure. You can narrate your day, like, "I'm cooking lunch now," or pretend you're having a conversation.
I could try that. Maybe I'll talk to myself while doing chores. But what if I want to practice with real people?
That's even better. You could join an English-speaking group online, find a language partner, or even use apps designed for conversation practice. The key is to speak as much as possible.
Okay, but what if the person I'm speaking with is impatient or doesn't give me time to think?
That's a tough one. If that happens, it's okay to politely say, "I'm still learning English. Can you please speak slowly?" Most people will understand and be more patient.
Oh, that's a good phrase. I'll remember that. Can you please speak slowly?
Exactly. And here's another fun way to improve. Try shadowing.
Shadowing? What's that again?
It's when you listen to someone speaking English and repeat what they say, word for word, right after them. You can do it with podcasts, movies, or even YouTube videos. It's great for improving pronunciation and rhythm.
That sounds fun. I could try it with my favorite movie scenes. Maybe I'll sound like a Hollywood star one day.
You totally could. And remember, Khuram, the goal isn't to be perfect. It's to communicate. The more you practice, the easier it will get.
Thanks, Amira. I feel like I have a plan now. I'll practice shadowing, talk to myself, and maybe join a speaking group.
That's a fantastic plan.
Today's episode, we're going to tackle a challenge that many of us face, understanding English but feeling stuck when it comes to speaking it. We know that it's so common to be able to understand movies, podcasts, or conversations in English but then freeze up when it's time to speak.
And we totally get it. Speaking can be one of the trickiest parts of learning a new language. But don't worry, through this episode, we'll share some tips.
So if you've ever felt like you understand everything but can't seem to speak, you're definitely not alone. Stick around as we dive into this topic and explore how to overcome that challenge.
Let's get started. Stay tuned for some helpful advice, personal experiences, and plenty of motivation to help you on your English learning journey.
Everyone! Today, we're diving into a common struggle that many people face when learning English. It's the feeling of being able to understand the language perfectly but struggling to speak it. Khuram, have you ever experienced this?
Oh, absolutely. This is such a common issue. It's like you know exactly what's being said, you can read it, and you can even respond mentally, but when it comes to speaking, you get stuck. It's frustrating.
Exactly. I feel like understanding English through reading and listening is one thing, but speaking it out loud is a whole different ballgame. It's not just about knowing words, it's about fluency and confidence. What do you think contributes to that?
I think there's a mix of factors. First, it's fear of making mistakes. We often worry about not sounding perfect. And then there's the pressure of thinking on your feet in real-time conversations. That's a lot to handle, right?
Definitely. The fear of making mistakes is huge. I think people don't realize that it's a natural part of learning any language. The key is to embrace those mistakes, because that's how we learn and improve. But why do you think it's easier to understand but harder to speak?
One reason is that when we listen or read, we have time to process the information. But when speaking, you're under time pressure to react quickly. You don't have the luxury of thinking for too long about the right word or structure. It's almost like you have to switch your brain into a different mode.
That's true. Speaking requires quicker thinking and response time. It's like being on the spot, which is nerve-wracking for a lot of people. I think another factor is the lack of practice opportunities. If you're not regularly speaking with others, it's hard to improve.
Yes. Practice is so important. But not everyone has the chance to speak English regularly, especially if they're not living in an English-speaking country. That makes it even harder to develop speaking skills.
Right, and that's why some people might feel stuck in the understanding but not speaking cycle. The good news is that there are ways to break through it. Khuram, what would you suggest as the first step toward overcoming this challenge?
For me, it starts with creating low-pressure situations to practice speaking. Even if it's just talking to yourself at home or repeating phrases aloud that you hear in movies or podcasts. This helps you get comfortable hearing your own voice in English.
I love that suggestion. Talking to yourself is such a good way to start. It removes the pressure of having to speak perfectly because no one else is listening. Another method that has helped me is shadowing. Have you ever tried that?
Yes, shadowing is fantastic. It's where you listen to a sentence or phrase in English and immediately repeat it aloud, copying the pronunciation, rhythm, and intonation. It helps with fluency and confidence. Plus, you can learn how native speakers phrase things.
Absolutely. It's like you're mimicking the language, which can make you sound more natural. It's also great for learning new vocabulary and context. I also suggest listening to podcasts or watching videos in English and pausing to repeat what was said. It's like an interactive way of practicing.
Exactly. And even though it feels like you're just copying at first, with time, those phrases become a part of your speaking muscle memory. You start using them without thinking.
Speaking of muscle memory, I think a big part of learning to speak is getting rid of that self-doubt. The more we practice, the more confident we become, and the less we worry about sounding wrong.
That's so true. Confidence makes a huge difference. And part of building that confidence is surrounding yourself with supportive people who don't judge you for making mistakes.
Yes. I think it's important to remind ourselves that language is all about communication, not perfection. As long as you're getting your message across, that's what matters most.
Exactly. People appreciate the effort to speak their language, even if it's not perfect. And if you make a mistake, most people will just help you, not criticize you.
So true. I've learned that people are often more understanding than we think. And it's okay to ask for help when you're unsure about something. I know a lot of learners are scared to speak because they fear judgment, but it's all part of the process.
Definitely. Another thing I've noticed is that learners who are more relaxed tend to speak more fluently. When you're less anxious, your brain isn't overwhelmed, and you can form sentences more naturally.
That's such an important point. I've read that stress and anxiety can actually block your ability to speak. That's why it's important to find ways to calm down and feel more relaxed before speaking.
I agree. Taking deep breaths, practicing mindfulness, or even just giving yourself permission to make mistakes can help you stay calm.
And consistency is key. The more you expose yourself to the language and practice speaking, the more your confidence will grow, and you'll feel more comfortable. Even speaking to yourself in English every day can lead to huge improvements.
Absolutely. It's all about steady progress. The key is not to compare yourself to others but to focus on your own journey. Every step you take in practicing English is a step forward, no matter how small.
That's such a great reminder. So, for all of you out there struggling with speaking but understanding English, remember that it's completely normal, and with consistent practice and patience, you'll get there.
Definitely. So, let's encourage everyone to practice speaking every day, even if it's just for a few minutes. The more you do it, the easier it will become.
And to everyone listening, remember, understanding English is the first step. Speaking comes with time and practice. You've got this.
Thanks, Amira. And thank you to everyone listening. Let's keep learning and improving together.
That's it for today's episode of Amira's English Learning Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a comment. We'll see you next time with more tips and conversations. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Keep practicing and don't give up.